conned, duped, and lied to. How could I be so easily manipulated? I wanted some real answers, and I certainly wasn't going to turn to the same talking heads that had misled me in the first place. Who are these supposed reporters anyway? And who writes this shit?
What you got? Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media news, all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls.
The year is 1917, and Representative Oscar Callaway enters a disturbing statement into the U.S. congressional record. The statement reveals why J.P. Morgan interests hired 12 high-ranking news managers. The 12 were asked to determine the most influential newspapers in America. They were to figure out how many news organizations it would take to control generally the policy of the daily press of the United States. The 12 found it was only necessary to purchase the control of 25 of the greatest papers. An agreement was reached. The policy of the papers was bought, and an editor was placed at each paper to ensure that all published information was in keeping with the new policy. Soon, that policy would be defined by a front group formed by J.P. Morgan and his colleagues. In fact, Morgan's personal attorney was founding president of the organization, the Council on Foreign Relations.
It's the third time I've said that. I'll probably say it 3 more times. See, in my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in, to kind of catapult the propaganda.
Anthrax. Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax. Anthrax. Anthrax.
Outbreak. Outbreak.
Outbreak.
Outbreak. Outbreak.
Outbreak. Outbreak. Outbreak. Outbreak. Outbreak. Outbreak. Global epidemic. Epidemic. Pandemic. Pandemic.
Pandemic. Pandemic. Pandemic alert.
Pandemic.
Pandemic.
Influenza pandemic.
Pandemic. Pandemic.
Pandemic. A global epidemic. Pandemic. Pandemic. Pandemic.
Pandemic. Pandemic. Okay.
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. And we're looking at that very carefully.
Mr. President, earlier this year you told us you had ordered your administration to cease and desist on payments to journalists to promote your agenda. You cited the need for ethical concerns and the need for a bright line between the press and the government. Your administration continues to make the use of video news releases, which are prepackaged news stories sent to television stations, fully aware that some or many of these stations will air them without any disclaimer that they are produced by the government. Comptroller General of the United States this week said that raises ethical questions. Does it raise ethical questions about the use of government money to produce stories about the government that wind up being aired with no disclosure that they were produced by the government?
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
It's been a long-standing practice of the federal government to use these types of videos.
In 1991, Chairman and former Director of the Council on Foreign Relations and founder of the Trilateral Commission, David Rockefeller, wrote, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications, whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries."
It's a very simple equation here. They control by controlling the information that people receive. If we are going to, and we are in the process of dismantling this, then alternative information that tells the truth about the movie and exposes it needs to get out there.
The thing we can probably do is to preserve the diversity that's emerging through the internet.
All right, well, new today, President-elect Barack Obama is rumored to be picking a very big proponent of the fairness doctrine to lead his SEC transition team.
And it's silenced political speech. It's a censorship doctrine. It's not a fairness doctrine.
Can the FCC force that issue alone, or does it have to go through Congress afterward?
Nope, it's a regulation. There's no congressional action required whatsoever.
As bigger companies want to start getting into that space.
Civil libertarians and cybersecurity experts are raising eyebrows about a proposed law giving the president a virtual kill switch on the internet. The bill has some provisions for private sector involvement, but not other branches of government. National correspondent Catherine Harridge has the story of what some people feel is another example of big brotherism. We report, you decide.
Both the President Bush's Director of National Intelligence, Mike McConnell, who I greatly respect, and President Obama's Director of National Intelligence, Admiral Blair, who I greatly respect, have labeled cybersecurity perpetrated through the internet as the #1 national hazard of attack on the homeland in West Virginia, America, or anywhere else. So, I mean, it really almost makes you ask the question, would it have been better if we'd never invented the internet and had to use paper and pencil or whatever?
We're all you know. You do whatever the tube tells you to, just like the tube. Turn them off right in the middle of the